Okay, welcome everyone to the Stockbridge Planning Board meeting for August 1st. On the agenda, we have some members missing, Nancy Soch's absent, Wayne Slosik, and well,
Gary
Pitney. So, but we do have a quorum we have a Form A today, and so we're fine for that. So on the agenda, we have minutes from July 18th. We have a Form A for Yale Court, and then we have discussion of the July 17th workshop hosted by the Affordable Housing Trust Committee. So I'll start with the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look at those?
Yes.
Do I have a motion to approve?
I would move to approve.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so next up we have this Form A for Yale Court. And Brian, did you want to come up and show us what works here?
My name is Brian Casella from BEK Associates. Number one, I have a check and a Form A application.
We don't take checks.
You don't take checks?
There's no cost.
Oh, there's no cost. Get out. Really? That's refreshing.
Cash is okay.
Wow. I would have brought donuts in and coffee.
This is our dinner time.
You know, I did not see anything on the website or on and so I just got a blank check.
Please don't lose, is your check though? Please don't lose your check. I see it. Maybe put that away.
I'll do this. Here we go.
There you go.
So I have the Form A application. So you have copies there? Yeah, so it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Not a separate. The Vennels would like to purchase the land behind their home and offer the neighbor and creating this lot number one here. It's not a separate building lot. There's no frontage, minimal area. It's marked not a separate building lot. It's to be combined. The remaining land.
Hit by mistake and there's no audio anymore.
It was. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so this is a pretty straightforward request for a Form A. Brian has just explained that there's a piece of Debbie Wiswasser's property is being conveyed to the neighbor, and there's no change to the frontage. So I think we can go ahead unless anyone has any questions. I make a motion that we endorse the plan as an approval not required. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
We're all set. Do you want us to sign?
We need to sign, yes.
And you didn't even have to pay.
I can't imagine.
Except for you. Doesn't get better than that.
Please, somebody date it, otherwise the registry won't take it.
Brian, up on top here.
So, is there any chance that you can mail me one more of these?
Oh, you need 4?
Yeah.
I don't know. I might even have one.
Need that one.
This is signed by.
Sorry, but you have a pen.
Is that good to use this?
We use full pens too.
Do you need a regular pen?
I do. Thank you.
Okay.
Need a pen?
Oh, that's be different.
We can-
That one's yours.
All right, and this is
I got
mine.
two, I got one.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you. Good night. Okay, so next up, we have discussion of the workshop. And Marie, this was your, something you were interested in,
Yes, and all of us were there.
do you want to start off?
Well, I was just interested in, well, first of all, let me start again. I would be interested if you have the results. Did you get the results of the?
I haven't
all those
seen
things?
them yet.
Oh, okay. And I thought that would be.
There you are.
But, I got something, but it's not formal. Yeah, I just thought it would be interesting for the planning board to hear what went on in that meeting, seeing we have to do with planning. And just kind of a synopsis of what the meeting was what I was looking for, for the people that weren't there.
Right. So
I certainly read about
this
it.
does,
Yeah.
for your benefit of all the
But,
people in the room.
I just thought it would be good for us to know the feeling of the town and the people that were there, of the
Right.
people that were there. And the next
Can you send a copy of that one? That would be great.
Well,
I know we don't have anything to do with it right now.
One question, Patrick, I asked Randy Warner for for the copy of the sign-in sheet, and she did not, I know there was a sign-in sheet because I signed in, but she didn't have that.
no,
You're on the committee, right?
I am, but Jean Neckerman probably has it because she was running the event.
right.
Okay. Can you see if you can get that for
Well,
me?
you can ask Jen. I mean, yeah.
I think she's been asked already. I know it wasn't fully, I don't think half the people signed in. I think
Yeah,
that's part of
but
it.
still, I'd just be interested to
Yeah.
see. Yeah.
So how do you want to handle this? Do you want me to give a report on this, or do we just want to have a discussion?
Marie,
That's what I wanted, was just something to tell us about it
Okay.
and if there's questions or discussion, then that can happen. I just thought everyone should kind of know what happened at that meeting.
Okay.
I mean, I know it's been on the website since, but
Carl, you went over it on the website too?
Yes.
Okay, so there's,
So I feel like I
you know what,
got a picture.
I was there, so
Right.
I,
We were all-
Like, tell us
Yeah.
about it.
well, I mean, I had a nice presentation, but you all know this stuff already.
that's okay.
I think, you
It's
know,
on TV.
the key things
Let's-
really the key things that came out of this is how the town has changed. The age range has gone from median age of 40 to 60 in a matter of 10, 20 years. That's pretty frightening. And this is not, I mean, don't get me wrong, there are changes happening all over the country, but we're looking at our town. The income disparity has really grown. The median income has gone down. The income differences, okay, since we're not going to go by the thing, people earning 100,000 or more grew from 128 households to 223. Those earning 35,000 or less grew from 219 to 371. And this is happening everywhere. There are lots of people making lots more money than lots of others who are, the middle class is shrinking. But with the median cost of a house being $575,000, which some believe it's probably more because of houses that have been bought and then redone to excess or taken down and replaced. People living in town, 77% of the people living in town cannot buy a house here, is what it comes down to. So we have a problem in terms of how do we get our families back? How do we get our workforce back, people living in the community, to make it a community? Because the feeling of the community is very different. We don't seem to have, as I said in the meeting, when I was a kid, we knew everybody on the block. We knew who their families were. We played with their cousins. We knew everybody. I went to a party in my neighborhood last weekend, and I only knew 2 people in the neighborhood. That's crazy. I've been there since 1968, Wow. And granted, a couple were on vacation, but of all the people there, I really didn't know anybody. So that was a little weird. So I guess I have to come out of my house more often or something. The other thing that was kind of striking to me was that based on a small sampling of Stockbridge residents, that 1 in 3 pay 30% of their annual income just for carrying costs of their home. And 1 in 8 actually pay 50% more, or 50% of their annual income. That's not acceptable. It's not acceptable for a town that's going to work as a town. So what we were doing with the
When you say
housing,
carrying costs, I mean, you're talking about like mortgage,
everything.
but I mean, but also like utilities, I mean, yeah, everything, okay, taxes.
Right, but can you imagine paying half your income?
Sure.
Yeah, well, it's pretty frightening. So, and you know, if something happens to your house, uh-oh. So, and I'm the queen of having my windows done and having a wall replaced every time. So I know that the feeling of those costs. So we have already met the affordable housing requirement of Massachusetts. We're at the 10% mark, a little bit above, because it's based on residential units, and residential units are about half of the full-time residents are about half of the houses that we have. There are something like 1,638 homes, 80% which were built before 1980. And 811 of them are inhabited full-time residents, with 827 of them for either part-time use or rentals. Vacancy rates are low, so rental inventory is at about 3%, and inventory for homes to buy is about 2%. So it's very hard to find a home as well. So do we need, I guess what we can boil it down to. We had breakout sessions, we had 4 groups, and we all had the same set of questions to answer, to talk about and say what we thought were priorities in town. And then afterward, we all came together and we reviewed what it was, and we were all given little stickers and said, okay, what is most important? What do you think are the most important things? And the one that came out with this resounding star was zoning. And because zoning is the crux of how we go about this. So there's zoning, there's the talk about how do we make it possible to have ADUs or tiny homes or multifamily homes. And it's all aimed at bringing in younger families and kind of a workforce community members back to town, and also to afford seniors the opportunity to remain in their homes. And the question also came up was how are they going to be financed? Will there be tax incentives? Are we going for money from the state? Are we going to come, CPC funds can do some, but it's not a lot. I mean, we have to keep in mind that in 2021, the Affordable Housing Trust was created and the CPC gave it $100,000. In 2022, gave them $125,000. And then in the last year have added funds for, and the town also added funds for Pine Woods driveway. And I think that's the tune of like $250,000 total. And also, I believe it's about $900,000 to Heaton Court and Riverbrook. And they gave the money directly to them. This was not through us. So the affordable housing didn't actually get it given to us, did we? No. Affordable housing didn't have the money given directly to us. That money went directly to.
It's the voters of the town approved all these measures.
Right, right. Well, I'm just talking about, we have a certain amount of money that's been given to the trust to put in our coffers to put towards, towards things as they come up.
I'm sorry, how much money is
In the coffers now?
in the Affordable Housing Trust?
Trust right now,
Yeah.
225,000, I believe.
That's correct.
So that doesn't get us very far, but it's something, it's a start, and we're hoping to find ways to get more and make things happen. I think what we have to remember is our next step is to prioritize what we think should be done, and make recommendations to the town. And then we take those recommendations to the town and they are voted on by townspeople.
Who administers those funds? Your committee that was there?
We
It's
may-
5 out of 7.
It's what?
It's 5 out of 7 votes to appropriate, and then the town administers.
Right.
So basically,
Town
Erica, the
administers. Okay, the town-
treasurer, and Michael
Right, we never
Canales.
make it, we never write the check.
The town administers.
Yeah, it's the same rules of procurement.
But you're in charge of making the decision of what,
Yeah, it takes a supermajority, 5 out of 7.
Right.
yeah, that committee that put on the program. something.
Coming.
You know what, I just want to let the committee talk first, and then I'll
Can't
take.
remember. I'll think of it.
One question I have is, how are you defining affordable? What's the number? Like, how do you define affordable?
Please,
The amount.
he's much better at answering this question than I am.
It's up to you.
Yeah, go ahead. Can you come on up and introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Patrick White. I'm on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and on the Select Board and on the CBC. There's something called area median income. And it basically, it's a sliding scale from one person to like 8 people in a family. And the more people in the family, the higher the median income is. And the typical rule of thumb for subsidized affordable housing, so that's affordable with a capital A, as was pointed out, whatever, is 80% of area median income. And 80% of area median income for a family of 4, I believe, is around $73,000. So not bad, but for a single person, I think it's in the 40s.
If I'd be interested to see that, do you have that?
It's available online. It's just a simple search. The federal government has it by county. It's set by county. And so for every county in the United States, area median income is defined. And you can just search for Berkshire County AMI.
Okay.
And it'll come up.
Okay.
And that's built into the new residential inclusionary bylaw, which defines the number of units either a developer has to build or the payment that has to come in when a large development that's subject to a special permit is proposed.
And then what about, how are you defining moderate housing?
Moderate?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, basically, what goes by missing middle or workforce housing, there's a lot of terms for non-subsidized housing, and that's basically somewhere between, someone who can afford market rate housing and someone who qualifies for subsidized. That group in the middle that, doesn't qualify for subsidized but can't afford a $700,000 house.
Okay, so you would say missing middle?
Yeah, I think missing middle is the term. Workforce housing, missing middle. It's like basically it's the.
Can you put a number to that?
Well, it's everything between, I would say, if it takes around $200,000, $225,000 to qualify for a $700,000 house, which is right around the median house price right now in Stockbridge in terms of sales. And family of 4, 80% of AMI is 73,000. Basically, if you're between 73 and 200 and you don't have the 100 grand in the bank or 140 grand in the bank for the down payment, that's kind of the missing middle, So I don't know.
Right. And our numbers were based on 575. And if you were to put 20% down, it would be $115,000.
Right.
And these are people who don't have $115,000.
Seem to feel that in the breakout sessions or when anybody talked, that people were more interested in that kind of housing than in like affordable, subsidized, it seemed like more to me, and I don't know how it turned out with but it seemed like that was the real concern of people. Like we took, talk about your kids moving into town and whatever, was more of a problem, and that we wanted to do something about more than like an affordable housing or something. I mean, it seemed like, and how can we do that? And that seemed to be where the zoning was the concern.
Yeah.
How can we zone so that we can have a little more density in places where,
It was also it was zoning and it was building codes, because what people are finding is that building codes have changed a lot in and if the stock is, since we haven't built much since the 80s, that the stock is built on very different building codes, and to bring it up is very expensive. But a really interesting point was made by an architect, Michael Mullen, I believe his name was, and he was talking about, we do have an older population and people are going to be passing these houses down, and that this is a great opportunity to to be doing something actually environmentally very conscious by taking these houses and putting, building ADUs in them or making them multifamily homes so that you're not making a bigger footprint somewhere, but that because people are downsizing and tiny homes are so important and people are using less space. At least that's what we believe that the trend is. I mean, the trend right now is that people are building bigger and bigger houses for fewer and fewer people in them. So they're using, a lot more square feet per person. But I think to make it work, it has to go that way. And I thought it was very clever that he would say, we don't necessarily have to build anything else. It's going to take time, though. I mean,
Of course.
it's going to take a lot of time that way.
So one question I had was at the workshop, someone leaned over to me and asked me, what's this big A, little a about? Can you, and I didn't follow it.
I think that affordable housing is subsidized housing. Affordability for housing is, could you go out and afford to buy, the house you're in today? Or, I couldn't.
What's the big A? Affordable?
Affordable housing, I think, is the big A. So, but I think that missing middle is better because it's less confusing than, but I think to Marie's point, though, the purpose of the session on July 17th was to have a brainstorming session to get some ideas on the table. The next step is for those ideas to be debated and reviewed by the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. But this is where it gets a little gray because as we talk about zoning ideas, clearly it's not the Affordable Housing Trust's job to propose or write zoning bylaws. And I don't believe that's the appropriate stay in your lane role of the Affordable Housing Trust. That is this board's role. All right. Now, what is absolutely the Affordable Housing Trust's, lane is the question of affordable housing. And while I think that in the brainstorm session, there was clearly a lot of interest in zoning questions that I think will eventually land here. The fact of the matter is that whether it's the creation of the trust or the residential inclusionary bylaw this year or the roughly $500,000 in funding, but $600,000 in funding between Pinewoods and Heaton Court and Riverbrook and the Affordable Housing Trust that the voters have appropriated at town meeting for the last 3 years. These ideas have been over and over again endorsed by a wide margin. And that is, I think, going to be the area that the Affordable Housing Trust focuses on. Now, it seems to me that there's a couple of reasonable proposals that we need to look at. One is, I don't think we're going to nearly be limited to the 200,000 in the trust because of the residential inclusionary bylaw. It's likely that there will be a pot of money 10 times that's, order of magnitude larger than that, 10 times larger. And I think at that point, we'll need to look at one, fixing some of the original construction issues that Pinewoods faced. Two is whether we evaluate a property like the Levan property, which is,
Dilapidated.
yeah. And the third is whether or not there's an opportunity for some Habitat for Humanity style housing. I think that's the sort of things that the Affordable Housing Trust will debate.
Thank you. Kind of why I thought it was important that our board hear what was said at that meeting, because some of it will come here if we decide to do something about zoning or changing bylaws, and I just thought it was important that the rest of the committee heard that that's what the town is concerned about.
Right. Well, I think it'd be very nice if everybody if the whole board could show up next time, to be part of that discussion because.
Yeah, I mean, they usually are. This is an unusual.
No, I don't mean today.
time.
I mean, coming to our next, the next presentation.
Oh, the next presentation,
You
yeah.
were there and.
Yeah,
Kate was there.
exactly.
And that was-
When is it? When is the next presentation?
I don't know. We have to do we have a date?
Don't think so, but
They said the next thing they were going to do was get the
Results.
all the results of the breakout sessions.
Right.
And get them out in the public.
Right.
So I was hoping you might have it tonight.
Well, that's, I have the pieces of paper. And that's what I was fishing through to say zoning came out first and things that I mentioned are going to be brought up.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming. It's coming our way, guys.
So
I hope. I mean, I hope we really are going to do something
it's
in
time.
town about housing.
Right, and,
If we can,
we will
if we
still
can.
work on keeping the character and, do all the things that are
Right.
important to us. And, but also part of the character of the town is the community. And we're kind of losing it.
I mean, I think all towns are struggling with the same thing, all towns in Berkshire County, and probably in a lot of places in the United States. I don't know. It's hard.
And were specifics proposed regarding some changes?
No.
No, it was just a
No.
brainstorming session. What do you
Okay.
think? How do you think we can, you
Yeah,
know?
because zoning encompasses a lot of things.
Yes, it does.
Oh, exactly. That's not simple.
I mean, sort of interesting to me was that we actually, in April, we had an accessory dwelling use essentially come before this committee, which had, affordable housing, I guess with your big A, as you say, has it written into it. But there was no interest in that at that meeting. So I'm trying to understand, Liz, maybe you can help me with this.
I think it's clearer now. I think because of this study, I think it's much clearer what's happening. The numbers, I found the numbers staggering. Absolutely. I mean, I know that there have been changes, you can see it, but I found the numbers staggering. And when you see how many children we're losing in the school system and how many we've lost. Since 1990, I think we had 270 kids in the school. We're down to 107 this year. And by 2030, we're going to have 80. That's the estimated. So we have this, and this is not just here. I mean, I think about it and I have two grown children and they both have a child, but a lot of their friends have chosen not to have kids. I think we're going to see a real decline in the number of children in the States, which then it's a whole, it's very interesting to read. There was a great thing in the Times over the weekend about aging populations and who's younger and where are you going to see these changes? And we're definitely aging.
The article in the Times actually is pretty interesting in that it's not just national, but it's global. So you're looking at these changing demographics. So, with Berkshire County losing population, did you ever consider, just planning on what the actual reality is?
Well, the reality is going to be, we're just going to keep going like this because our population is getting older and older and older. We aren't drawing in anybody. So we've got to do something to what happens when we just disappear? We're going to be dinosaurs.
Jobs and housing.
Yeah,
That's tough here in Berkshire County.
right. So jobs is another way to go too, How do we draw people back? Because it's what, my kids aren't here. That's part of it.
Yeah, the fact that people can work from home has helped somewhat.
And it's a wonderful place to bring in children.
Yeah.
It really is. But once they get older and there are other things to do, they tend to go elsewhere.
And to reverse my earlier question, as opposed to, were there any particularly specific zoning recommendations that came up, but was there a focus on negative impacts of the current, what are the problems with the current zone?
It's very hard to do multifamily.
And the lots are so big, you could put more houses in if you were able
Maybe
to
the
do it,
frontage.
especially close to town,
And who's going to develop those?
Well, that was part of the problem.
Yeah.
Well, not, even to put up a house, that was what they were saying. A construction company has a hard time putting up a house that's affordable.
Right.
With the prices of
so high.
everything today, even if you
But there-
divided a lot and put one house, next to another. It would be hard to be affordable because it's so expensive to do. And
You'd have to find a contractor who's willing to
not
take
make a
little
lot of
chunk-
money,
Right,
yeah.
to take a chunk out to help
But
the
they don't want to
community.
lose, they don't want to
There's some
lose
out
money.
there. There's some. Not in this state that I know of yet, but there are some.
It's, every kind of solution seems to have a big problem in the way of.
Right, but that's what we're here for. We're here for those.
Yeah, and that's what you were trying to get out. What do people have suggestions about?
And then there was somebody else who suggested sweat equity. He can't afford to put all the money down. Boy, I can sure help build something. I can help in other ways, by donating my time. And that's a great way to do it. That's kind of a habitat kind of way of thinking about things, but it's not a bad idea.
these are little small steps,
Yeah.
but
That's what it takes to get there.
Cool, all right.
Can I just have one little
Patrick?
Yeah,
on the zoning? Well,
one more, and then I want to take any.
I think that, pick a metric, okay? School-age children is a metric for kind of young adults, next generation leader, all the kind of things we need, the fire and the teachers and all the rest of it. School-age children is a good metric, all right? Pick a target for a metric. And so, for example, if we have 107 now, and we're worried about getting down to 80, try to stabilize at 100 to 110, all right? That doesn't require you to change the zoning for the entire town. To come up with policies that could encourage 30 kids, an average of 2 per family, you really need to only have policies that maybe really just incrementally could help on the margin get a couple more families here. We don't need to risk the character of the entire town to come up with a metric like stabilizing the school-age population and trying to have a target planning for that for the next 5 or 10 years. And I think that this idea of incrementalism is really an important consideration because nobody has a crystal ball, but when we start talking about lot size and really giant changes, to stabilize kind of based on one metric, you don't necessarily need to do all that. You need to just do a couple of things that are more modest in nature.
Yeah, well, in my experience, I mean, what can I say, zoning, planning, what have you, actions that have resulted in the creation of, our existing affordable housing were very specific projects. It wasn't some kind of, writing some more lines of boilerplate in the zoning bylaw. It was actually, individuals, groups of individuals identifying individual properties and establishing, specific goals in those places. I mean, I'm not going to name them right now, but I can think of at least 3 or 4 places in town, which it's like, begging to, for a certain kind of development, but, someone has to muscle behind them. And whether that's someone on the town level or, but it needs to be people putting it together with some vision. And, that's where Eaton Court came from, Pine Woods, I don't know. I mean, so that's my 2 cents.
No zoning changes are needed to do affordable housing. It's all state regulated.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. And now, Jennifer, help me out. What do we have here? Okay. Any comments from, we have one attendee?
We're dying to hear.
Okay, I guess not. So, sorry that some board members are not here, but we did have a Form A and I didn't know board members would not be here.
they may listen to it online.
Yeah, so,
Clearly.
so good. All right, well, thank you, everyone. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Will we adjourn?
I second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Great, okay, thanks.